Good morning, gentlemen. I think yesterday I was sitting in the bar with one of my friends and we were having a conversation. So the question was asked, what is going to be the solution of the Palestine war? And what is Israel's plan? And are they going to win? And is it worth having a ceasefire there? Or can Israel decimate Hamas? Now we all know what actually happened. And what actually happened, as you all know, is that Hamas is the organization which has been classified as a terrorist organization by the Americans, which had mounted a rocket attack on Israel. That's an old fact. 10,000 rockets were fired, 1,500 people killed, and obviously the instigator of all this, as what we know now, has to be another power. And the finger of suspicion points to Iran. And Iranians have also done the same thing in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Now, the question is, once somebody mounts such an attack, what is the state supposed to do? One is sit back and say, go to the United Nations and call some world power conference with the Arabs and all that and try to snuff out the issue, which is not going to go under water, because there's some countries in the Arab world which have sworn to eliminate Israel from the map of the world. Now what happens next? So the Israelis had to have a counterattack. There's a history behind all this because Israel and the Arabs have fought 4 wars. 47 was the first, 56, 67, and then 73. In all the 4 wars, the Arabs were decisively defeated. Though there was a semblance of victory in the initial stages in the 73 war, when Anwar Sadat was the president, but ultimately the Egyptian army in the desert was surrounded by Israelis. There was no water. There had been complete annihilation till the Americans and the Russians intervened and got a ceasefire done, and the war came to an end. But I will say this much, that the 73 war, also known as the Yom Kippur War, gave a semblance of self-respect to the Arabs. Now comes 2024. That's a long time back. Almost 50 years had elapsed. There had been some sporadic wars here and there. So many things changed. And a terrorist organization called Hamas made its entrance. So the philosophy of Hamas is very clear. Get all the money you get from the World Bank, the United States, so that the standard of living of the people is high. At the same time, get ready to decimate Israel by terrorist acts. Because militarily, they cannot win. As the Arabs lost all the 3 wars earlier and the 4th one also, Hamas doesn't have the capability to mount an offensive in Israel. At the same time, also we must remember that the periphery countries, that is Jordan, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, have a semblance of peace with Israel, and they are not going to intervene on the side of the Arabs, Palestinian Arabs. So when this attack took place, it was inevitable that Israelis will retaliate. And that is precisely what they did. They retaliated in a very big way. They took some time, maybe a week to 10 days, to regroup their forces, and then they mounted an assault. Now you can see the character of the Hamas invaders who went and attacked the Israeli outposts after the rocket attack. There are excerpts of sounds available which say, capture the women, kill the men. And gruesome videos have appeared of atrocities being committed by the Hamas fighters. I think after seeing all these things, Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, was very, very perturbed, and he immediately came out in support of Israel. So, gentlemen, the Arabs knew what had happened, but the Arab sentiment is so strong in favor of the Palestinian Arab, that the Arab leadership and the kings and the sultans sitting on top with the president, though they felt Hamas had done something dastardly and wrong, they have failed to condemn it. And that is very bad in the sense it's going to affect the monarchies and the other rulers who are there in the Middle East. Because for the simple reason that Hamas and other terrorist organizations like the ISI want a pristine Muslim state in the Middle East. They want to do away with what they feel are imposter regimes, and given a chance they'll probably inhalitate them like they did the Iraqi royal family, which was decimated in 1958. Well, gentlemen, so the situation is that there was tacit approval for the Israelis, I'll say this, and they mounted the attack. Now, once the attack had commenced, the Israelis obviously pretty ruthless, but at the same time they've been following the rules of law very well. But the result is that the Israelis' invasion has resulted in a lot of civilians being killed. And now there are countries which are shouting, let's have a ceasefire. Yet none of them is coming to the root of the problem, that you have a ceasefire now that will give breathing space to Hamas, and maybe after another few years they'll mount another invasion, another attack. And this time, or the next time, it will be more dastardly, and who knows what's going to happen. Because by then Iran would be a nuclear power, and you have to have a toss of the coin to know what's going to happen. It's if and but. So whatever has to be done now. And despite all the clamor which most of the world is talking about, basically, who are the pro-Zionist, the pro-Arab people, the anti-Zionists, I'll say, and there are plenty of them spread all over the world, and that is why this anti-Zionist attitude was so prevalent in Europe in the Second World War, that despite many of the Germans knowing what's happening, Hitler was able to kill 6 million of the Jews. I mean, it's a terrible thing. You can't wash it in the carpet. And at the same time, that sentiment is still pervading in parts of Europe, in England, and so many other places. And that anti-Semitism is there. And they are the ones who are saying, have a ceasefire. Because they know Hamas is facing defeat. Some of the top leaders of Hamas have been eliminated by Israel, sent to the next world. And there's every chance that the chief of this terrorist organization, that is sin, is going to be caught also. Though he's hiding in some of the tunnels. The tunnels are an engineering marvel. They've been crisscrossing the entire Gaza. And I'm sure they got external help for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to make those tunnels. And maybe the help came from China. China is always a double crosser. It will not come and face the enemy itself. So it keeps on trying these devious methods, to keep the pot boiling. And hope that the Americans and the West will be weakened. Gentlemen, what do we do now? That's what the question people ask me. Israel has made headway, but it is not spectacular, because the Hamas fighters are fighting back, and Israelis have suffered casualties. The war has gone on for almost 2 months now, in an area just about 30 miles long and about 12 kilometers wide. By now, the Israelis should have overrun the entire place, but they're not been able to do it. They're going about it in a slow manner, and the question is, what next? Egypt has seized the border with Gaza, and they don't want any of the Palestinian Arabs to come to Egypt. Same thing with King Hussein of Jordan. He doesn't want these people to come. At the same time, he's talking of ceasefire. I mean, if you don't want to take in these refugees from Gaza, what the hell are you talking about ceasefire? How is it going to help? And so now, this fat is in the fire. Even in the northern border, Syria and Hezbollah are flexing their muscles, but they don't have much of power to intervene and attack Israel. So they're carrying out sporadic rocket attacks here and there and like that. And Yemen is another country which come in sport of is the Gaza Arabs and declared war on Israel. But they've taken a step forward, and since they are in a strategic location, they have been bombing and killing, many of the ships which are traversing the Red Sea from Suez Canal. The Americans and the British have mounted attacks on the Houthis, with the controlling force which is doing this, but I don't think the success is what was expected. They haven't been able to cripple the Houthi firepower. And we must remember this is shades of Vietnam. I'll draw an example from there. When Linebacker was launched by the American Air Force bombing, at a crucial moment it was called off, and the North Koreans could breathe again. This was a strategic bombing to bring North Korea to Vietnam to the coast, to the lease. So, gentlemen, this is the same thing. The Americans attacked thus far and no further, but they should have been made a continuous attacks continue till you decimate the Houthis. They didn't do that. Because always the Americans never go the full mile. They go up to the thing, do something, and then they say, well, we're going back. That doesn't work out. Victory has to be total. And that goes for Israel in its battle with Hamas. Until and unless Hamas is totally decimated, there will never be peace in the Middle East. This is my view. And I think a lot of Middle East historians will agree with me. A ceasefire at this stage, it will be detrimental to world peace, because Hamas is going to then regroup and they will come back with greater vengeance and foe. It will be something like that famous novel by Hadley Chase, Vengeance is Mine. So this will be the same thing like that. So gentlemen, we must be very careful in the Middle East. It's like a tinderbox. It could blow up. But Israel, though it has nuclear weapons, not going to use them. I'm pretty sure about it. And none of the Arabs have nuclear weapons, thankfully. And now the question arises, where do we go from here? In my view, there's only one way, and the Americans must come all out in support of Israel, and so should Western Europe, so that once for all Hamas is decimated. Failure to do it now is going to harm the Europeans more than Israel. And thankfully the Israelis are on the road to success. I think ultimately they will prevail. And with the Hamas leadership already wiped out, and the fact that none of the peripheral states like Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia are coming in support of Hamas militarily, I think the die is cast. The writing is on the wall. Let's wait for what happens, gentlemen. But this is my view, and I hope there's a quick sanitization of the entire Gaza Strip. People talk of two-state solution. There is nothing like that, because the two Arab states involved, Egypt and Jordan, are not going to give any territory for the two-state solution. So that's a non-starter. So gentlemen, I will close now and say that the only solution is decimation of Hamas. Let us see how it happens. I'm sure it will. In the meanwhile, I will request you all to subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and come back for more. And by the way, do take care of yourself, and God bless.